Hey guys, if it looks like we're at a weird angle, that's literally because like my makeshift camera stand just like broke and stuff. So I'm gonna be ordering like one of those phone tripod things because this is just way. I'm using like a regular camera stand and I was using like these hand things to hold it up. Gonna invest in a new one, etc., etc. But do you remember where this pen is from? If you've been watching for a while, or if you do know where this spiral is from, then you know why I'm here also besides the title. Now, it has been over for I think a hour or two now probably since it first aired on Facebook Live. They were doing a Q&A with the cast and then there was like a interruption and a leak of season 2 episode 1 of Mr. Robot. Now it is two parts, so this was only part 1. So part 2 obviously will air with this episode. If you missed this one, it's only out for a limited time. It's probably only gonna be for tonight, maybe a little bit into the wee hours of tomorrow morning. Highly doubt it though. So if you can catch it when this video goes up, whenever it goes up, you could probably watch part 1. It was on Amazon Prime streaming on their YouTube channel. I think it is going on right now still. Facebook Live, like I said, their Twitter, and I think BuzzFeed Snapchat also it went on live. So again, I got to see a sneak peek basically with a number of people of season 2 episode 1 before it premieres, part 1. So there is part 2, like I said, that will be on Wednesday, July 13th, 10/9 Central for me, Central Time. So didn't figure out what the name of this episode is, what the premiere episodes are going to be called. I don't know if it's going to be like, like 1.0 and like 1.1, or if this one's going to be like 2.0, 2.1 and stuff. But aside from that, the hat is American Horror Story. I was looking into that show. I'm probably going to do recaps for that one. I don't know. I could have done them for Hotel. I didn't do them. I was thinking about Scream Queens. Again, didn't do it. They both kind of overlapped into my first semester of college, so it was like a little tough, and college was just a thing. So also getting into college, season 2 will end, I think mid-September or maybe the end of September, and that will be getting into my fall semester. So if those recaps for those episodes around those time do come on delay, please just know that I'm working on something. I'm writing papers, I'm staying in class or after class for something. So again, please be mindful and considerate that I'm also like going to college while I'm doing this, and while I'm filming and like editing and stuff. Because usually when I film this like in the summer when I have more free time than usual, and it's not like a lot of work and everything, I stay up until 4 or 5 in the morning editing the video. If I have to edit it or anything, I put it together. And like if the video goes too long and I have to put two pieces together and have to edit out like little blips and pieces like that, again, just know that I film, I edit, and then I upload, and my Wi-Fi takes forever. So my laptop is just plugged in charging until like almost midday the next day, or like 10 a.m. or something like that, or even 2 p.m. So again, please be mindful that the Wi-Fi is slow, and I'm also going to be starting college soon, which is why I kind of feared a late premiere. Then they added on 2 extra episodes. So again, again, just clearing that out. There will be probably late delays in those recaps as we get near the season finale of season 2. So, getting to season 2, episode 1, part 1, I did take notes. Basically, like I said, if you are subscribed to the emails from Mr. Robot, you would have gotten like the emails of like the teasers from like 5/9 and this and everything like that. And you have seen now that Mr. Robot is like kind of a global event, so to speak, where we are live now in like Indonesia and like I think Australia and like the UK and stuff. So basically the whole world is exposed to Mr. Robot now in real life. And with this, we do leave off of a couple of months after the whole revolution has started. Um, Basically, it's a whole new ball game. They are going to be facing consequences. I know Stephanie Corneliuson, who plays Joanna Wellick, Tyrell Wellick's wife, does say that Joanna is probably going to have a bigger part in this season, and that she's more of a dangerous woman. We don't really know anything much about Tyrell still. Tyrell's kind of like, I guess, like a missing piece, so to speak, that I don't think any of us have really found, like, a theory, so to speak, of where he can be I should say, I haven't really, like, come across one, also. feel free to add your comments down below and anything about theories from season 1 and season 2. You can still catch up on season 1. You have like 2 days, I think, from the time that this video airs. And I mean, just share your theories again. I did recap season 1. You can watch those. I think I have a playlist. I'll try to link it down below or put a card or something, just so you guys don't miss out on that. And I did go to South by Southwest for Mr. Robot, everything like that. I'll try to link those vlogs, put them in a card or something, you know. I'll just try to figure it out. But basically, season 2 opens up with scenes from season 1, basically to catch you up. So we do see like the graveyard scene. We do see when Joanna meets Elliot and they're talking like, oh, like how long have you known Tyrell and stuff. And then basically when the whole storm goes down of the revolution, basically shit hits the fan, so to speak. So it opens again with Tyrell and Elliot in F Society. And Tyrell's in the mask and stuff, and he takes it off. He's like, oh, like, what a silly mask, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets a phone call. Elliot was on the phone, and he just says, it's happening. And then, as Tyrell's basically on the computer, Elliot goes to the gun that was in the popcorn machine. Now, if you don't remember, like, the popcorn machine and everything that is in the F Society arcade, and it's basically there kind of like where you walk in, and he goes, like, I guess, to get popcorn, but he gets the gun, and then there's a bam, and the shot takes us back to Elliot's childhood. Now, if you do remember from season 1, there was an episode near the end of the finale. I believe it is the graveyard episode. I don't remember what the episode is called right now. I would have to look through my notes. But basically, that whole episode, also, if you haven't seen it, basically is kind of, I guess, Elliot falling apart at the seams, per se. Like, it isn't truly his mental, like, breakdown or anything like that, because he was already having that, and it's, like, kind of a continuous thing. But it's kind of like going back to the childhood and everything like that, and he's kind of back in his own childhood home. And in those episodes, we found out that Mr. Robot was him the whole time. Obviously, a lot of people kind of knew or kind of suspected, but this whole time that, like, Mr. Robot was doing something, it was Elliot. And the gun scene to Tyrell kind of reminded me of when Mr. Robot does that to the African-American guy in F Society. And this kind of is referenced again in this premiere episode. And I thought, wow, because we assumed that Mr. Robot pushed Elliot off. We didn't know from, like, episodes 1 and 2 that Mr. Robot was Elliot this whole time. We thought someone else had, like, pushed him off the pier. We thought, like, Mr. Robot was a totally, basically different person. Like, it was not Elliot at all for a while. And when he's, like, choking Mr. Robot, he's, like, choking himself in a cafe, which we saw in season 1. This was kind of the same thing when he threw himself out the window when Mr. Robot supposedly threw him, or he threw Mr. Robot. So, basically, Elliot was thrown out the window by his father. Basically kind of references like an abusive childhood home or anything like that. And we do see that Mr. Robot, his dad, is like continuously just saying sorry, like, oh my god, you know, and the mom was like, oh, like, what happened, blah, 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 like, he's bleeding, like, what the hell did you do? And they're basically fighting at the hospital, the parents, about the copay, because would you remember Mr. Robot kind of went out of business, so to speak, and the mom was like, well, you have no job, and like on top of all the other bills, like, how are we going to pay, because he needs a cast because his forearm is broken and stuff. And like the doctor was basically explaining to him like, oh, like, there's only a couple stitches, like a concussion and everything like that. And then he's like, I need to talk to Elliot, so like leave the room. And when he's talking to Elliot as a child, he like looks over and he sees like basically the CAT scan of his brain, or, you know, like the pictures of his brain, and that kind of to me symbolizes that maybe he has like a screw loose, which we all know, but like, you know, like that's probably where it happened, and that's probably how it kind of comes back full circle, so to speak, because we do know that Elliot kind of threw himself out the window again. Maybe that was him trying to like help himself, like, you know, like hit, and like you hit it harder, it should start working. And I kind of think like it all started with an abusive childhood, because we kind of saw in the Times Square scene that it's like they love him and like come with us and everything like that. And it's like kind of like, I think he was envisioning the childhood that he wanted when Mr. Robot said it was like a kingdom of bullshit. And with this happening, it's kind of like you see, like, I think that was his way of coping. Like, he had to make up some kind of whimsical thing to like kind of keep himself like not feeling the pain and such. So the mom says like, don't touch me, and that references like Elliot when he's like, don't touch me, to Angela's boyfriend. He just doesn't like human touch, you know, which is also why he's on the computer and everything like that. And kind of like why he's so like antisocial, I think it is because he was abused as a child, like physically and who knows if anything else, if we'll ever find out any other seasons. And then this lady tells Elliot to wake up. And supposedly this is Elliot's new mom, as I find out later on in this episode. And he talks about like a loop that is his life now. Like he kind of has like a regimen, like a schedule, like it's his programming that he has to like do everything at a certain time, and like he basically keeps a schedule and it's the same thing every day, and that just kind of keeps him sane for his own safety, so to speak. And that's like the only way he kind of comes to a consensus with himself of like, this is like who I am, like we got to get back to reality, so to speak. But will Elliot ever get back to reality or anything? He could probably only get worse, but we never know. Now, we do see Obama talking about the economy and Tyrell and F Society. On the TV, Obama comes on like a couple of times in this premiere. And then we basically, at 8 a.m., he walks to breakfast with a friend, Leon. And I believe this is Joey Badass, a new cast member, as is Craig Robinson and a couple other faces who we will see joining the cast, who are new faces for this season, etc., etc. Will they be in future seasons? Who knows? Now, they talk, and as we all know from season 1, anytime someone talks to Elliot, he's kind of just figuring them out, trying to like debug them. He kind of just sits there, nods his head, and he's like talking about like, oh, like this person, for example, in this episode, he's like barely found out about Seinfeld and like this and that, and like he's just like, it's just easier to like pretend to listen, you know. So he's there, but he's not in the conversation. He's not in the moment, so to speak. And then he's like at 10, he's like, he helps around the house. So he's obviously living with someone else, like a foster mom, so to speak, at his age. And then at 12, he has lunch with Leon. They talk, and then at 2, they watch a basketball game at the park. And then he talks about this girl, Hot Carla. And to me, I'm thinking, is this Shayla 2.0? She's like the pyro of the place. She's like burning a book. And we kind of looks at her, he's like, oh, she's like the totem of my life or whatever. I was kind of thinking, I was like, is this going to be the new Shayla? And I was like, somebody get their hands off of my man. And then at, I think, 4 o'clock, 4:30, he cleans the house again. You know, this is all part of his schedule. And then at 6, he has dinner with Leon. He's like, well, you can see that most of my meals are with Leon at this random diner. And Leon is talking about, like, random things now. He's, like, kind of sounding very F Society-like, or, like, trying to give him some kind of wisdom, so to speak. And then he says it's a regimen. And part of that regimen is for him to go to a church group to socialize, to actually talk to people. Because remember in season 1, he was very disconnected from the world. And the only kind of socialization he got was when he kind of has the Starbucks in that one episode. And he's like, oh, this is what it's like. It's like Facebook. I can get into it and this and that. When he's kind of imagining a life, I believe, with either Shayla or Angela. And basically, like, how you can be normal again. And this is his, I guess, second attempt at trying to be normal. Where he tries to have, like, a regularly scheduled programming to follow, you know, schedule. Like, this is what I'm going to do at this time. Which he is doing, and he's keeping track of it in a journal. But, again, how far can he keep up with it? I mean, he has been for a couple of months, as this series explains. Like, this takes place a couple of months after 5-9 and everything. So, it can only go so far. And then, like I said, he has no computer or internet. Like, his mom doesn't allow it now. So this new mom, who knows what bigger of a role she plays, if any. And basically, it's like a dead zone, so to speak, in technological terms, because there's no Wi-Fi, there's no computer, there's no internet access, there's nothing. He doesn't even have a phone anymore. And, like, it's just him and his journal. Like, he's, I guess, like, technology rehab, so to speak. Like, he's trying to get grounded and come back to earth, like a come to Jesus moment, so to speak. And then we go into the therapist's office, which I thought surprising, because I was like, surprisingly, he's back with the same therapist. Because, you know, like, he kind of hacked her, and even though he did kind of help her, since that was kind of his justification for hacking people and doing what he did, like, helping others and figuring out others before, like, they got hurt again, especially her, like, dating, like, a cheater, and with the Ashley Madison scandal and everything like that, like, he's like, even though I tried to help her and stuff, like, I found it weird that, like, she wanted to talk to him, and everything like that, and he's talking about sameness and everything, and then she asks about the mom and, like, discipline and stuff like that, and he's like, well, better to know the devil you know than, like, you don't know. And to me, I was like, okay, like, in a way, I think there is a part of him that he tries to block out of his mind that maybe had to deal with the morphine addiction from the first season, where he tried to, like, numb the emotional pain and everything like that. But also, what was that kind of sameness? Like, I think he wanted to be the same in the sense of, like, just numb. Which he did always reference in the first season. Like, he's just like, I want to be numb. And, like, what do people do when they feel this way? Like, normal people. Because he's, like, crying. He's having, like, a breakdown. But then he's going to get morphine and such. And then she asks about being alone. And then he's just like, well, like Darlene comes by sometimes and everything like that. And she asks, like, what about your old life? And he's just like, what about it, basically? Like, he can't truly trust himself. And now, when he says he can't trust himself, as an audience member, if you do watch season one, you kind of like followed it for a while, you kind of wonder what does he mean by himself? Because as we found out, he is Mr. Robot. So can he not trust himself or can he not trust Mr. Robot? Since they are the same person, so to speak. And like his dad kind of lives on in his mind, you know, it's very complicated if you don't watch. And he kind of has like a weird kind of exchange with his therapist because it seems like she does have resentment for what he did to her. Because like she's like, I didn't want to really continue seeing you and stuff like that. She's like, but I agree because like you said, like you would be more open and everything like that. So there is kind of like that, like when they're talking to each other. Because remember, like in season one, he kind of like blew up at her in his mind, but he kind of was just like, yeah, you know. So it kind of seems like now he's acting out a little bit more what he would just keep to himself and like what he wanted to say but wouldn't say or wouldn't do at all. Slowly but surely, I would say he does that. And again, he says, it's not that I can't trust myself, it's just that I can't trust Mr. Robot, himself, because he knows now that he is Mr. Robot. And then, as he's walking away, he says that he can't trust us, the audience, like before. Because remember in season one, episode 1, he was like, oh, hello, friend. Like, basically, like, it's you and I against the world, so to speak. And now it's like, he can't trust us. He's like, I know you want to know what we talked about and stuff. He's like, but I just can't let you do that. Because, like, you're supposed to be, like, a real friend and everything. So he kind of has, like, trust issues now. Like, not only does he have daddy issues, but he kind of has trust issues. So there is that. And then Mr. Robot appears and he's like writing down stuff in his journal and everything. He's back at like his new place, and he's basically saying like continue on with the revolution and stuff. Like he's pushing himself to continue the revolution. Like we can't like let this like just go away, and like you can't just be living like this scheduled sheltered life, so to speak. Like you have to like finish what you started, you know, like in the most simplistic terms. And then he's talking about like control and information and everything like that. And then he asks Mr. Robot or himself, like I guess going back into his memory, like a self-hypnosis, if you kind of think about it. He's basically like, where is Tyrell? And he's basically like, I can't tell you that. And going on with that, he kind of shoots himself in the sense of Mr. Robot holds a gun to Elliot, which I said kind of reminding me of season 1 when he does that to African American guy. And he shoots himself and he got shot and like he was like back, and then he like comes back, and then he's like, oh, like these bullets like won't ever like hurt me or anything. And he starts writing in his journal like, oh, he like shot me in the head again and stuff, and like I didn't panic this time, like I stayed calm. And he talks about like how control is an illusion, how Mr. Robot told him like control is basically an illusion. When he looks down, there's like a blood drip. So either this means that Elliot is doing self-harm to himself or something like that. We won't really know again until as the season progresses. And we go into some F Society people at a bull statue, and they cut off the balls of the bull. I don't really know like the symbolism for that, if any connected to the show. And then we go to a lady jogging. Her smartwatch messes up. She's listening to stuff in the news. And then her alarm goes off. And this part, I don't know if like they had already hacked her house or not. But I thought of keystroke loggers because she puts in her password onto the house alarm, and it's wrong and then it's right, but she put in the same password. Thought, oh, maybe, you know, like they used a keystroke logger just to get the password and everything like that. The house is being weird, and there's like music playing when she's swimming, and when she's trying to take a shower, like the water's hot, and she kind of is like, it's getting warmer, and then it's like just extremely hot, and she has to turn it off. And she's basically ran out of her own home, and it's a smart house. And then Darlene and F Society move in. This lady has a bigger part than we know at the end of this episode that we find out. And then we're back at Elliot's new house with his new mom, and Gideon shows up. And if you don't remember, Gideon is basically like the CEO of Allsafe to Elliot, you know, like he isn't the CEO, like we know, like that's Terry Colby, etc., etc., but like basically Elliot's boss with money, and they had to fly him out to like the servers and stuff. But little do we know, Elliot was the one who basically put the hack into Evil Corp and like Allsafe and everything like that. Like the whole time that he was supposed to be helping, he was doing like his whole little plan and everything, like subconsciously, but probably not, so to speak. And we go into their little talk. Mr. Robot's trying to eat an apple in the corner. And Gideon tells him, like, I know we didn't leave off on the best of terms and stuff. And he just wants to know who did it in that whole conversation. And when he's saying who did it, Mr. Robot also basically vocalizes that point to the audience when he says who did it, in the sense of, was it Elliot that did it or was it Mr. Robot that did it? Because they're both the same person, so I guess in a way Elliot did do it, but it's like, who was the one? Was it like the crazy life that Elliot has like up in his head? Or was it Elliot himself that did it on purpose, like in order to gain something, or, you know, anything like that? And Gideon is saying how the FBI believes that he had a part of it and that maybe he led to it or he played the whole scheme of things and everything like that. And then he says that the FBI is hacking him and that someone else is hacking him. And Mr. Robot says, it's probably you, Elliot. Like, you're probably the one that's hacking him also, that he doesn't know who is. And basically, Elliot in a way framed him, so to speak. Like, he had to frame Gideon so obviously he wouldn't get caught or anything, and like take the blame away from him, so to speak. And then the headshot will slowly affect him that Mr. Robot gave him later, because like the headshot appears and he's like, ugh. And Gideon's kind of like, just like, what's wrong with you and stuff. And like Mr. Robot is saying, like, slowly but surely, like, I'm gonna unravel you and stuff. And like he's like, you're not gonna help Gideon and everything like that. And then Gideon threatens Elliot because he basically wants him to do the right thing, which is tell the truth and stuff. Like, Gideon is afraid of, I guess, going to prison and everything like that because he knows he didn't do it himself. And it seems as though Gideon has some information of Elliot was a bit sloppy, and Mr. Robot is like, oh, like, maybe you should take care of him, like, you don't know, like, maybe he knows more than you think, and everything like that. And Mr. Robot says, I wonder if I slit his throat, who will it be slitting Gideon's throat? Because remember, again, Mr. Robot and Elliot are the same people, so if Mr. Robot does something, Elliot is probably the one doing it. And with that being said, he does slit his throat, so to speak, but he doesn't. It's kind of like he slit his throat, but in reality, he didn't do it. And Elliot's mom was like, what's going on over there, and such like that. And then he basically starts writing in his little journal, I am in control, and then at the end he's like, it's an illusion, and stuff. And he basically wants to stay in his routine, and he wants to get rid of Mr. Robot and all those problems that he has. But again, how long can that last, since we do know Elliot was like a recovering addict, so to speak. And, you know, like, low-key, he probably wants to continue on the revolution, which is why Mr. Robot is probably appearing back into it, because it seems as though they, I guess, fired the first shot, but they didn't really do any damage, or if not, they kind of just, like, scraped someone's knees, so to speak, if anything. And then he's back with Leon, and then Leon asks about his little head wrap that he has, because it's like for the bullet hole and stuff, or maybe if Elliot is hurting himself. And he's kind of just like, oh, whatever. And then Mr. Robot again shows up at the diner with him and Leon, and he's asking about Gideon and stuff. And to me, this seems like, obviously, Mr. Robot, who is Elliot, kind of has an inner conflict, something more deeply rooted, and we won't really know what that is, because already we see, of course, like, we know, like, Mr. Robot was a bad father, so to speak, but with the brain damage and everything, and then also his morphine addiction, like, if you think about it and try to piece them together, you're kind of trying to figure out what is the bigger picture, why does he really do the things he did, how did he really set off that revolution and everything that affected the whole global economy and basically everyone's life. And then there's a house party, and we see Darlene distress in the house where they moved in with the lady. And Elliot is basically talking, and he says, have hope for me. So basically asking the audience, like, have hope for Elliot, because maybe he's still a good person, maybe this, like, maybe he can do the right thing. Who really knows what the whole issue is, so to speak, but Elliot is basically asking for you to just keep him in his prayers, you know? And then we get into F Society people at that party who cut off the bull's balls, taking a selfie with it. And they're like, oh, yeah, and then Darlene collects herself, you know, she's still in the bathroom, she's probably having a panic attack, or like, she's anxious or something. And then she looks in the mirror. And this, to me, kind of reminded me of when Elliot looks into the mirror near his like mental breakdown in season one. And he sees Miss Robot, he sees Darlene, he sees Angela, he sees Tyrell, and he sees the Mr. Robot face mask. And it's kind of like, who are these people? And then it kind of makes me wonder, do all of these people exist? Like, with the way things are worded and the way the show goes, I'm wondering if all these people do exist, because later on in this party, I'll bring it up. And then she asks for the phone of the person and she breaks it. And she tells them that they're in a war and they're losing and they're basically about to be killed because they're on their knees with guns to their heads. And she mentions this lady, the General Counsel of Evil Corp, Susan Jacobs, and that she is also known as Madam Executioner on the inside of Evil Corp. And that's mostly because most of the lawsuits that Madam Executioner has to deal with result in death. And if you do kind of remember the lawsuits in Angela in that court case in season one, like her mom died, and then obviously Elliot's father, Mr. Robot, died of like cancer and stuff like that. But it's like, is that all like real? Is that fake? Did Madam Executioner have a part to play in it, or another Madam Executioner that came before her? Who truly knows? And then she basically tells them like, this is our time to stand up, and they basically need to stand up to all the oppression that they've faced so far in life. And she also like gives them a plan not to give away that location. She's like, okay, like when you're at pharmacies, do this and do that. Like, don't take the same route back home twice. You know, like basically throw people off and everything like that. Because maybe the FBI is already after them. Maybe, you know, the FBI is like on their tail. Maybe she knows something that the audience doesn't know yet. And then we go from this dude from F Society, the Jack Black kind of dude, and he says that Darlene kind of sounded like George W. Bush, and she's like, oh, that's so low and everything. And she basically says that the speech was just supposed to rile the people of F Society up that are still there. And then she says, why is it that we took F Society, that we took Evil Corp down, but we truly didn't? Because it almost seems like they're winning still. Like, it made everything much more worse than it already was, than better, like, than the outcome that Mr. Robot was telling Elliot on the Ferris wheel, like, and probably that Elliot told all of F Society. Like, it seems as though they did the right thing, nothing happened, and it just seems like it's going to get worse for them, and maybe it is the consequences that they are going to face with the law, who knows. And then she says that we didn't truly finish Evil Corp off, and they need to change the world. Like, they said, if anything, they said, like I said, they dealt the first blow, but they haven't done anything that means anything. And Elliot did touch upon this when he talks about like a grain of sand from the beach or something, and how change takes more time than people have in this lifetime and such. And then she gets a flash drive with the ransom or whatever it could be, and she's giving it to the Jack Black guy, and he asks about Elliot, and she's basically like, whatever, like, she's like, this is everything. What this truly is, we don't know if it means like the revolution continuing on, what she was working on that flash drive, or a ransom, or whatever it is that she was doing. She's like, this is everything. Like, I guess changing the world to her is like her top priority. And to me, that kind of seems like maybe Darlene is going to become the new Elliot. Maybe she's going to have a mental breakdown. Maybe we're going to find out that both of them were abused, or maybe they abused each other somehow, some way. Because remember, Elliot kissed Darlene because he didn't remember that she was his sister. And she even asked, she was like, did you forget who I was and stuff? And then again, he was having that mental breakdown. And Angela and Darlene kind of walked in on him at the cemetery, like, who are you talking to? And then he sees, like, it's the tombstone of his father and stuff. So it's like, maybe the whole family has some kind of mental illness, so to speak. And then we go to the Bank of Evil Corp, basically. And there's a lady talking about the payments of her house. And she waited 3 weeks for that appointment. And she was paying them for 20 years and everything like that. And she has all her bills and proof. And the people are like, oh, well, people are forging stuff now. Like, we can't, like, prove it. Because remember, all their files, everything has been basically destroyed and is encrypted, because it truly isn't encrypted. It's kind of just like a ruse, so to speak. And then she says, like, oh, she's like, you know what, just cancel it. Like, she's like, I don't want to do business, and, like, Evil Corp deserves what they're getting to them, because, like, they're crooks and stuff. And I guess that mirrors society when we're like, oh my god, like, we pay, and we pay, and we pay, and we do this, and, like, they still want more money, and they don't help, and they don't do anything, like, customer service, blah, blah, blah. And then they tell her, like, well, if you cancel, like, there's no guarantee, like, you're going to get all the money that was in your account. And then she's like, well, I know how much I have. And then the lady the bank teller is kind of like, okay, like, hold on. And then a jester appears. And that jester, we find out, is F Society asking for $5 million of ransom. And this is around the old guy who was with Angela, the guy whose wife Tyrell killed, and then the lady from the beginning who was jogging, who's run out of her home. And she is the general counsel. Because she says, as general counsel, I believe like this, like, we have to pay it. And they want the ransom paid in Battery Park City, like, no police, no nothing. And she says, like, well, the FBI says, like, they won't do this if, like, we go and pay them and everything like that. And he's saying, the guy whose wife Tyrell killed, he's like, well, we'll have it fixed in 5 days. And she's like, the bank can't afford, like, a hack when, like, tonight, basically, they have to pay the ransom and everything. So this is leading up to part 2, and then obviously whatever plot season 2 is holding of that ransom, those files that are encrypted, and what else is going on, the FBI getting involved in the law, going after F Society, Darlene, Elliot, you know, whoever Leon plays, and then obviously we haven't seen Craig Robinson and the other people who are joining season 2, so there is a lot left in this. And then she also says, like, she's like, we can basically pay it with someone else, like, send someone else to pay it from the company. But she also says $5.9 million is nothing to them because they're rich CEOs, like, they're the 1% of the 1% that Elliot talks about. And she's like, oh, I'm pretty sure we can just find it in between these couch cushions. Like, we really don't have to worry about, like, lots of money. And that is true because remember, in season 1, he gave Angela, like, a bunch of money and she was going to buy Prada shoes or something like that. And then the guy whose wife Tyrell choked to death says, I want to be the one, because he is chief tech officer, who goes to the money, who pays him, because, like, if anyone, he's like, it should be me or whatever. So maybe he knows about Tyrell, maybe he doesn't, because remember, he and Tyrell were at head to head, and he gave a watch to Tyrell. I was like, oh, well, like, this should help, like, I heard you're having a baby, you know, like, he thought of himself more highly than Tyrell, which is why probably Tyrell and Elliot kind of teamed up together, because they both kind of felt, like, discriminated against, I guess those would be the words, in the sense of they're poor people, they're like the lower class compared to them that have, like, all this money, are CEOs, but they're corrupt and evil and stuff. So maybe that's also why Tyrell wanted to get involved, to kind of get back at him. One, he already killed the wife, but who knows what else he wants to do besides maybe bleeding them dry. And then it goes into intermission, and that basically symbolizes the end of part 1 of the premiere of Who is Mr. Robot. And again, this will air Wednesday, July 13th, 10/9 Central on USA. Catch up on season 1 if you haven't watched it. Hopefully you like this recap. If you were able to watch the premiere today, let me know when this video goes up in the comments. Please subscribe to me if you want to see more. Please like these videos so I know I still have an audience for these, and I'm so excited to finally be filming again. Hopefully I am able to go to South by Southwest again this year. Hopefully I can meet the cast or something. But please remember that there are some cast members that we still haven't seen her coming on, such as Craig Robinson, and that Joanna Wellick will play a darker role, like a more evil role, so to speak, kind of like Maleficent, I suppose, in season 2. And again, I'm just so happy to finally be back filming. The soundtrack for Mr. Robot season 1 is out. You can buy it on DVD or Blu-ray. I know it was on sale at Target for $19.99. I have it here, so you can get season 1. I was thinking about doing a Mr. Robot giveaway. They did send me more shirts also. I believe I have 5 shirts now from Mr. Robot, and they are going to send me another one. So I will be wearing those from time to time when I do the recaps. Again, please be considerate that if some recaps are in delay, it's only because college is starting again for me. I am going to be a sophomore in college. And hopefully I can get a tripod. Hopefully I can get, like, an actual camera. I don't know if I want to open up, like, a GoFundMe, so to speak, where you guys can, like, donate money for me to get a camera. I really don't want to be that person, but, you know, because I use my phone and, like, a makeshift tripod. But again, hopefully you guys enjoy this. Please like, rate, share, subscribe, everything like that. For more Mr. Robot news, anything else about Mr. Robot, I'll try to say in recaps, or maybe in, like, the descriptions or, like, the comments or anything. I'll try to keep you guys more updated as the season progresses and everything like that. So again, this was season 2, episode 1, part 1 of Who is Mr. Robot, and that premiered on their Facebook Live, YouTube channel, their Twitter, on BuzzFeed, Snapchat, and everything like that. So again, if you can still catch it in time, please do watch it. Again, it will air this Wednesday, July 13th at 10/9 Central on USA. So with that being said, I want to say hi to Rami Malek. Stay safe and God bless. So hi, Rami Malek.